The rain hammered down on the cracked asphalt of Elmwood Lane like it was trying to wash away the sins of the whole damn town. But Asher knew better. Sin stuck like mud in Vermont soil. He stood there in the downpour, soaked to the bone, staring at the eviction notice taped crookedly to his landlord's door, the ink already bleeding into illegible threats. In that moment, as thunder cracked open the sky, Asher felt the weight of 28 years crash down, not just the rent he couldn't pay, but the boy he'd been, the dreams he'd buried, and the love he swore he'd never chase again. Elmwood was the kind of small town that clung to the edge of the Green Mountains like a forgotten postcard. All maple syrup stands and covered bridges that tourists snapped pictures of before speeding off to Burlington. Asher had grown up here, in a clapboard house that leaned a little too far to the left, shared with his mom until the cancer took her 3 years back. Now it was just him, rattling around in the silence, fixing up old trucks at the local garage for cash under the table and dreaming of a life that didn't smell like motor oil and regret. He was the boy next door. Literally, his place backed up to the old Harrington estate, a sprawling Victorian that had sat empty since old man Harrington croaked and his son, some hotshot from a city, inherited it without a backward glance. That son was Landon. Asher hadn't seen him since high school, when Landon was the golden boy with the Letterman jacket and the easy smile that made girls and a few boys swoon. Rumors said he'd made it big in New York, something with finance, trading stocks, or whatever rich folks did to multiply money like rabbits. Asher figured he'd stay gone, a ghost in yearbook photos, until the moving truck rolled in last week, all shiny chrome and out-of-state plates. Landon stepped out looking like he'd been poured from a magazine, tall and lean in a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Asher's monthly take. His dark hair slicked back, green eyes scanning the town like it was a curiosity in a zoo. Asher wiped the rain from his face and trudged back to his truck, a '98 Ford that coughed like an old smoker every time he turned the key. The engine finally caught, and he peeled out toward the garage, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the storm. By the time he pulled into the lot behind O'Malley's Auto Repair, the sky had cracked open wider, flooding the streets with rivers of red clay. His boss, Mick, a grizzled vet with a prosthetic leg and a mouth full of chew, was under a Chevy, cursing the rusted bolts. "You're late, kid," Mick grunted without looking up, his voice muffled by the undercarriage. "Eviction notice," Asher muttered, grabbing a wrench from the toolbox. He didn't elaborate, Mick didn't pry, and Asher didn't share. That was the Elmwood way. Swallow your shit and keep swinging the hammer. The afternoon blurred into a haze of grease and grind, Asher's hands blackening as he rebuilt a carburetor, his mind wandering to the Harrington house. He'd seen Landon once, unloading boxes in the drizzle, sleeves rolled up on that sweater, forearms corded with muscle that spoke of gym memberships, not hay bales. Their eyes had met across the fence, just for a second, and Asher felt that old pull, the one he'd ignored back in school when Landon was straight as an arrow, or so everyone thought. Asher had known better. He'd caught the glances in the locker room, the lingering touches during football huddles. But Landon had a future, and Asher had a trailer park address. End of story. By evening, the rain had eased to a mist, turning the town into a watercolor smear of neon diner signs and porch lights flickering on. Asher showered off the grime in the garage's back room, the water cold enough to bite. then threw on his least faded jeans and a thermal shirt under his denim jacket. He wasn't going anywhere fancy, just a rusty anchor. The dive bar on the edge of town where locals nursed beers and nursed grudges. But tonight, something itched under his skin, a restlessness that had him locking up early and heading out before Mick could rib him about it. The anchor was half full when he pushed through the door, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the twang of Merle Haggard on the jukebox. He slid onto a stool at the Scarred Oak bar, nodding to Rita, the bartender with tattoos snaking up her arms like vines. "Usual?" she asked, already pouring his Bud Light. "Yeah." "And shots for the table in the back. Tell him it's on me if they shut up about the Pats game." Rita chuckled, sliding the bottle over. "You're in a mood." "That notice got you twisted?" Asher shrugged, tipping the bottle back. The cold fizz burned going down, chasing the chill from his bones. He scanned the room out of habit, eyes landing on the corner booth where his crew held court. Jake, the plumber with the beer gut and bad jokes. Tomas, the quiet farmhand who'd come out last year and still flinched at loud voices. And Ellie, the waitress who mothered them all with her sharp tongue and sharper aim at the dartboard. But tonight, the booth had an extra body. Landon. He was wedged in there, looking out of place in a button-down that hugged his shoulders just right, laughing at something Jake said, his head thrown back, Adam's apple bobbing. Asher's stomach flipped, a traitorous heat pooling low despite the AC blasting overhead. He turned away, but too late. Landon's gaze caught his, green eyes sharpening like a hawk spotting prey. "Asher Hale," Landon called out, voice carrying over the din, smooth as bourbon. "Get over here. Man. It's been forever." The bar seemed to hush for a beat, all eyes flicking between them like this was some small-town soap opera. Asher forced a grin, grabbing his beer and sauntering over, every step measured to hide the tremor in his knees. "Landon freaking Whitaker," he drawled, sliding into the booth beside Tomas, close enough to catch the faint cologne wafting off Landon, something crisp, like pine and cash. "Heard you were slinging spreadsheets in the Big Apple. What brings the prodigal son back to this mud pit?" Landon leaned in, elbows on the table, that smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Family business. Dad's estate's a mess. Taxes. Lawyers. The works. Figured I'd hole up here till it's sorted. Besides, missed the fresh air." His gaze dipped, just a fraction, to Asher's mouth, then back up. Or maybe Asher imagined it. Wishful thinking was his specialty. The night unspooled from there, shots appearing like magic. Jake regaling tales of the time he flooded the mayor's basement. Tomas thawing enough to share a dry quip about the harvest. Landon fit in like he'd never left, trading barbs with the ease of old. But Asher caught the undercurrents, the way Landon's knee brushed his under the table. Accidental at first, then lingering. By the third round, the booth was a bubble of warmth, laughter echoing off the wood-paneled walls, and Asher let himself sink into it, the eviction notice fading to a distant hum. "You still fixing cars?" Landon asked later, when the others had wandered to the pool table, leaving them in a pocket of quiet. "Trucks. Mostly. Keeps the lights on." Asher traced the condensation on his bottle, avoiding those eyes. "You? Still breaking hearts, city style?" Landon's laugh was low, intimate. "Nah. City's full of noise, but nothing real. Back here, it's honest." His fingers drummed the table, inches from Asher's. Remember that summer after junior year? The bonfire at Miller's Pond? Asher's pulse spiked. How could he forget? The fireflies dancing. The beer-fueled confessions whispered in the dark. Landon's hand on his thigh under the blanket. Gone by dawn like it was a fever dream. Yeah. Wild times. Was thinking about it on the drive up. Landon's voice dropped. A thread of something raw weaving through. Wondered if you changed. The air thickened. Charged like the storm outside had slipped indoors. Asher met his gaze then, blue locking on green, and saw the question there, not just curiosity, but hunger. Some things stick, he said softly, the words heavier than he meant. Rita's shout for last call shattered the moment. Lights flickering as the bar emptied out. They spilled into the night, gravel crunching under boots, the group fracturing with hugs and half-promises to do it again. Asher lingered by his truck, keys jingling in his pocket, when Landon's hand landed on his shoulder, warm, steady. "Walk you home?" Landon asked, breath fogging in the chill. "It's 2 blocks. Plenty of time to catch up." Asher nodded, and they fell into step, the mist curling around them like secrets. The Harrington estate loomed at the end of Elmwood Lane, its windows glowing amber against the black. They stopped at the fence, chain link sagging between their worlds. "Thanks for the company," Asher said, throat tight. Landon's hand lingered, thumb brushing his collarbone. "This isn't over, Ash." Not by a long shot. Then he was gone, vanishing into the house like smoke, leaving Asher standing there, heart pounding, the rain starting up again as if the sky wept for what was coming. Asher woke to the insistent buzz of his alarm, the kind that drilled into his skull like a bad hangover, though he'd nursed only 2 beers last night. Sunlight slanted through the threadbare curtains, painting stripes on the scarred hardwood floor. And for a moment, he lay there, replaying the brush of Landon's thumb, the promise in his eyes. It felt like a dream, fragile as frost on the windshield, but the ache in his chest said otherwise, real, raw, and reckless. He rolled out of bed, feet hitting the cold planks, and padded to the kitchenette, where coffee brewed in a pot older than he was. The eviction notice mocked him from the fridge door, pinned under a faded magnet from his mom's trip to Niagara Falls, the one bright spot in her last summer. 2 weeks. That's all he had to scrape together $1,200, or he'd be couch surfing at Jake's, his tools scattered, his life in boxes. He poured the coffee black, scalding his tongue on the first sip, and stared out the window at the Harrington fence, where dew clung to the links like tears. Work called, so he dressed in his grease-stained overalls, laced-up boots worn thin at the heels, and headed out. The garage was already humming when he arrived, Mick barking orders at a new kid who couldn't tell a socket wrench from his elbow. Asher dove in, losing himself in the rhythm of torque and twist, the metallic tang grounding him. But every rev of an engine echoed Landon's laugh, every clank a reminder of that knee against his. Lunch was a sandwich from the vending machine, eaten on an overturned crate behind the shop, the mountains rising hazy in the distance. His phone buzzed, Ellie, texting a blurry selfie from the diner. Captioned, "Save me from the lunch rush." He smiled despite himself, firing back a thumbs up, then scrolled absently through notifications. Nothing from Landon. Stupid to expect it, but the silence gnawed. Afternoon brought a beast of a job, a vintage Mustang hauled in from Montpelier, cherry red and purring like a cat in heat. Asher slid under it on the creeper, flashlight beam dancing over the underbelly. When footsteps approached, polished loafers, not work boots. He wheeled out, wiping sweat from his brow. And there was Landon, hands in the pockets of chinos that screamed weekend casual. A paper bag from the bakery dangling from one finger. Figured you might need fuel, Landon said, holding out the bag. The scent of fresh cinnamon rolls wafted out, sweet and sinful. Asher sat up, legs splayed, suddenly aware of the oil streaks on his arms, the way his shirt clung damp to his back. Stalking now? That a New York habit? Landon grinned, crouching down to his level, close enough that Asher could count the faint freckles across his nose. Call it neighborly. So you head out this morning. Thought we'd grab a break. Mick hollered from inside, but Asher waved him off, snagging the bag and tearing into a roll. The dough flaked warm on his tongue, icing melting sticky. Damn. These are from Bessie's, best in town. Ate enough of them as a kid to sink a ship. Landon settled beside him on the crate, long legs folding awkwardly, like he'd forgotten how to rough it. They ate in companionable quiet at first. The only sounds the distant hum of traffic on Route 7 and birds flitting through the pines. So, Landon ventured, licking sugar from his thumb in a way that made Asher's mouth dry. What's the story with the truck? Looks like it's seen better days. Asher chuckled, low and bitter. She's a fighter. Like her owner. He paused, then added, bills pile up. Mom's medical stuff left a hole. Garage pays okay. But Landon's expression shifted, the easy charm cracking to reveal something softer, almost pained. I get it. Dad's will is a nightmare. Debts I didn't know about. Property's tied up. Thought I'd escape to the city. But money's a chain. Huh. Asher studied him, the sharp line of his jaw, the way sunlight gilded his hair. You complaining from a penthouse? Must be rough. Touché. Landon bumped his shoulder. The contact electric. But it's lonely up there. Boardrooms full of sharks. Dates that feel like transactions. Here. It's real. You make it real. The words hung, heavy with intent, and Asher felt the pull again. That magnetic draw he'd buried deep. He set the half-eaten roll aside, turning to face him fully. What we doing? Lawn? Last night was nice. But you're leaving soon. Back to your towers and tailcoats. Landon's hand found his knee, fingers pressing firm. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I've been running from this, from us, for too long. His voice was a murmur, eyes dark with the weight of unspoken years. Tell me you don't feel it. Asher's breath caught, the garage fading to a blur. He leaned in, just a fraction, and their lips met, tentative at first, then fierce, like a dam breaking after a long drought. Landon's mouth was warm, tasting of cinnamon and regret, his hand cupping Asher's neck, thumb stroking the pulse there. It was messy, desperate, the kind of kiss that rewrote histories. And when they broke apart, gasping, Asher's world tilted. Jesus, he whispered, forehead to forehead. We can't. We can. Landon's grip tightened. We will. The rest of the day was a fog. Asher finished the Mustang with hands that trembled, Mick shooting him knowing smirks but saying nothing. Dusk fell early in the mountains, painting the sky bruised purple, and Asher drove home slow, windows down, the cool air whipping his thoughts into shape. Landon waited on the porch steps of the Harrington house, a six-pack in hand, flannel shirt unbuttoned over a tee that showed the V of his chest. They cracked beers on Asher's sagging glider, the fence between them dismantled by unspoken agreement. Talk flowed easy, high school hijinks. The time they snuck in a drive-in and watched half a movie before fogging up the truck windows with Jake. Laughter bubbled up, genuine and freeing, but under it simmered the heat. Glances lingering too long, touches accidental on purpose. As the stars pricked the velvet sky, Landon set his bottle down, turning to Asher with that intent look. "Come inside," he asked, voice rough. "My place. No expectations. Just more of this." Asher's heart hammered, every instinct screaming caution, the class divide, the ticking clock of Landon's stay, the ghosts of what-ifs. But the pull won, as it always did. He nodded, and they crossed the yard, hands brushing, the night wrapping around them like a promise. The Harrington house was a time capsule, high ceilings, oak paneling, furniture draped in sheets like specters. Landon flicked on lamps, golden light pooling, and led him to the kitchen, where they raided the fridge for leftovers, eating cold pizza at the island, knees knocking. It felt domestic, dangerously so, and when they migrated to the living room, collapsing on the leather couch, the space between them vanished. Kisses turned to exploration. Shirts shed in a tangle. Skin meeting skin with a sigh. Landon's body was a revelation, firm planes honed by city gyms. Scars faint from boyhood scrapes. Asher traced them with fingers, then lips, drawing gas that echoed off the walls. They moved slow, savoring, the world outside forgotten in the creak of floorboards and the whisper of names. After, they lay tangled in sheets upstairs, moonlight slicing through blinds, breaths sinking in the quiet. Landon's arm draped heavy over Asher's waist, fingers tracing lazy circles on his hip. "This is what I've missed," he murmured into the dark. "You. Us." Asher turned, pressing a kiss to his shoulder. "Don't say that yet." World got a way of complicating good things, but as sleep tugged, Asher let himself believe, just for the night, that maybe, in this forgotten corner of Vermont, love could rewrite the rules. Dawn crept in soft, filtering through lace curtains that smelled of dust and disuse, painting Landon's bedroom in hues of rose and gold. Asher stirred first, the unfamiliar luxury of Egyptian cotton sheets whispering against his skin, a far cry from his thread-count poverty. Landon's arm tightened around him, a sleepy mumble escaping as Asher shifted, green eyes cracking open, hazy with remnants of dreams. "Morning," Asher said, voice gravelly, propping on an elbow to take him in, the tousled hair, the stubble shadowing his jaw, the vulnerability that city suits hid so well. Landon smiled, slow and sated, pulling him down for a kiss that tasted of last night and tomorrow. "Best wake-up I've had in years." His hand slid lower, teasing, but Asher caught his wrist, chuckling. "Easy, tiger. Work waits for no man, rich or poor." They disentangled with reluctance. Showers taken in tandem under a rainhead that poured like a summer storm. Steam fogging mirrors where they traced foggy hearts. Laughing like kids. Breakfast was haphazard, eggs scrambled in a cast-iron skillet, toast charred at the edges. Eaten at the sun-drenched breakfast nook overlooking the garden gone wild with weeds. It felt like a glimpse of something normal. Something theirs, and Asher's chest ached with how badly he wanted to hold it. But reality intruded with the chime of Landon's phone. A sleek black slab buzzing on the counter. He glanced at it, face clouding. Lawyers. Dad's estate meeting via Zoom at noon. Asher nodded, rinsing his plate. Go conquer the paperwork. I'll see you later. Count on it. Landon crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, backing him against the sink for a deep kiss that left them both breathless. Tonight. Dinner. My treat proper. At the inn. Asher raised a brow. Fancy. You trying to impress me? Every damn day. Landon's grin was boyish, but his eyes held steel, a determination that scared Asher as much as it thrilled. He left with a wave. Truck rumbling down the lane. The morning crisp with a scent of wet earth and pine. The garage was a madhouse. A flatbed hauling an erect F-150 from a logging accident up in Stowe. Mick red-faced and yelling timelines. Asher threw himself into it, welding sparks flying like fireflies, the heat searing away the softness of the morning. But his mind wandered, replaying the curve of Landon's spine, the way he'd gasped Asher's name like a prayer. By mid-afternoon, the job was half done, and Asher stepped out for air, lighting a rare cigarette, his vice for frayed nerves. Jake ambled over from the plumbing van parked curbside, toolbox clanking, his face split in a leer. Heard you vanished last night with Whitaker, Jake said, punching his arm. Town's buzzing. You two rekindling that old flame. Asher exhaled smoke, aiming for nonchalance. Just beers. Man. Don't read into it, Jake snorted, leaning against the wall. Bull. Saw the way he looked at you, like you hung the moon. Careful, though. Rich boys like him, they play. Then pay to forget. The words landed like a gut punch. But Asher shrugged them off, grinding the but under his boot. Not like that. Landon's solid, if you say so. Jake clapped his back, heading inside. Just watching your 6, brother. Doubt wormed in, but Asher quashed it, clocking out at 5 with grease under his nails and a knot in his gut. He stopped at the post office, a squat brick building that doubled as the gossip hub, collecting mail that was mostly junk, late notices, a postcard from Ellie's sister in Boston. But tucked in was a letter, crisp envelope with the bank's return address. He tore it open right there, leaning on his truck, heart sinking as he read the foreclosure warning on his mom's old house. Not just eviction, full auction in 30 days. The ground tilted, and he gripped the door handle, vision blurring. Home was a blur of pacing and panic. Asher scrubbing clean in the tiny shower, the water doing nothing to wash away the dread. He dressed careful, dark jeans that fit just right, a button-up swipe from a thrift store, collar open to show the chain his mom gave him. The mirror reflected a man teetering on the edge, blue eyes shadowed, but he squared his shoulders. For Landon, he'd try. The Elmwood Inn was the town's nod to elegance, a white clapboard relic from the Gilded Age, now hosting weddings and the occasional corporate retreat. Asher pulled up as twilight deepened, lanterns flickering on the veranda, and spotted Landon's Audi gleaming in the lot, sleek, silver, a world away from his Ford. Inside, the lobby hummed with low chatter, crystal chandelier casting prisms on the polished floors. A hostess led him to a corner table by the fireplace, where Landon rose, looking devastating in a navy blazer over a crisp shirt, tie loosened like an afterthought. "You clean up nice," Landon said, pulling out his chair, voice warm as the flames crackling nearby. Says the guy who probably has a stylist on speed dial. Asher sat, menu in hand, but his appetite had fled with the bank's letter burning in his pocket. They ordered seared scallops for Landon, steak for Asher, wine poured ruby in balloon glasses. Conversation dancing light at first, the inn's quirky history. A disastrous blind date Landon had in Manhattan involving a vegan activist and a steakhouse. Laughter flowed, easing the tension, but Asher's smiles felt forced, the weight pressing heavier with each sip. Halfway through the meal, Landon's foot hooked around his ankle under the table. A subtle anchor. "You're quiet tonight." "Everything okay?" Asher toyed with his fork, the steak cooling untouched. "Rough day." Garage drama. Bills stacking. He hesitated, then pulled the letter from his pocket, sliding it across the linen. "This. House is going under. Mom's legacy. Gone." Landon scanned it, jaw tightening, then set it aside, covering Asher's hand with his own. "We'll fix it. I know people, real estate guys, loan officers. Let me help." The offer hung, generous and galling. Asher pulled back, pride flaring. "I don't need charity. Lon. I've handled my own messes. It's not charity. It's us." Landon's eyes pleaded, voice low. "Partners, right? That's what this is." The word partners sent a thrill through him, chased by terror. Before Asher could respond, the waiter cleared plates, and the moment fractured. Dessert came, cheesecake drizzled with maple, rich and cloying, and they shifted to safer ground. But the seed was planted, doubt sprouting thorns. After dinner, they walked the inn's gardens, paths lit by solar lanterns, the air sweet with late-blooming jasmine. Landon's arm around his waist felt like home, but Asher's mind raced, visions of auctioneers on his lawn, Landon jetting back to skyscrapers, leaving him to drown in debt. They ended up on a bench overlooking the pond, frogs chorusing in the reeds, and Landon pulled him close, lips brushing his temple. "Stay the night," he whispered. "Forget the world for a bit." Asher wanted to God. He did, but the letter's echo was too loud. "Can't." Early shift. Landon's sigh was resigned, but he kissed him anyway, slow and thorough, hands framing his face. "Tomorrow. Then. Breakfast. We'll talk options." Driving home, stars wheeling overhead. Asher gripped the wheel white-knuckled, the divide between them yawning wider. Wealth and poverty weren't just numbers, they were walls, built brick by bitter brick. And love? It was the fool who tried to climb them. Back in his bed, sheets cold and empty, sleep evaded him. He stared at the ceiling cracks, mapping his fears, wondering if one night of bliss was worth the fall. The next morning broke gray and grudging, clouds hugging the mountaintops like a bad mood that wouldn't lift. Asher dragged himself through the garage routine, coffee bitter as his thoughts, tools heavier in his grip, each clang a reminder of the auction looming, the house slipping through his fingers like sand. Mick noticed, tossing him a rag with a grunt. "Whatever's eating you, spit it out or swing harder. That carburetor ain't rebuilding itself." Asher muttered an apology, diving deeper into the engine bay. But focus fractured. By 10, his phone lit up Landon, texting a photo of the Harrington kitchen. Pancakes stacked high with a caption, "Your seat's warm." "Get here." A smile tugged despite everything. And he shot back a quick, soon, pocketing the device before Mick could catch him slacking. He wrapped the job early, fabricating an errand, and swung by the house for a quick change. Jeans swapped for chinos Ellie swore made his ass look killer. A Henley hugging his frame. Zamil Walit, showing a man half in love, half in fear. But he headed out anyway, the Ford's tires humming a wary tune. Landon opened the door barefoot, hair damp from shower, smelling of soap and certainty. "Knew you'd come." He pulled him inside, kissing him against the wall, hands roaming with morning laziness. They ate at the island, forks clinking, Landon's knee pressed to his under the overhang. A silent claim. Talk turned inevitable over second coffees, steam curling like questions. Landon laid out a plan, contacts at a Burlington firm, low-interest loans backed by Harrington assets, even a bridge from his own accounts if needed. "It's temporary," he insisted, eyes earnest. "Just till you stabilize." No strings. Asher's fork stilled, syrup pooling untouched. "Strings are all I see. You swooping like some white knight. But what happens when the estate's settled? You back to trading bonds. Me scraping by, owing you my soul." Landon's face fell, hand reaching across. "It's not like that. I care. You care now." Asher's voice cracked, the hurt spilling. "But I've been a poor kid before. Remember prom? You danced with Sarah Jenkins while I nursed a beer in the shadows. Too broke for a tux." Landon winced, memory flashing sharp. "I was scared. Ash. Dad's expectations. The town's eyes. But I'm not that boy anymore. Aren't you?" Asher stood, chair scraping. "This house. That car. It's your armor. Mine's rust and regret. We fit for a night. Maybe two. But long haul? We're oil and water." The kitchen went tomb silent, only the clock ticking judgment. Landon's jaw worked. Then he nodded. "Slow. If that's how you see it. Fine. But don't push me away because fear's easier." Asher left with words lodged in his throat, the door clicking shut like a verdict. The drive to work blurred, radio static mirroring his head, and he threw himself into overtime, welding until his arms screamed, ignoring Jake's concerned glances. Evening found him at the Anchor, solo at the bar, nursing a whiskey that burned less than the argument. Rita slid a bowl of nuts his way, eyebrow arched. "Trouble in paradise already?" He snorted, spinning the glass. "Paradise? More like fool's gold." She leaned in, voice conspiratorial. Whitaker boys always were charmers. But money talks. Honey, just make sure it ain't the only voice you hear. Her wisdom stuck like burrs as he stumbled home. Porch light buzzing moths. The house felt emptier, shadows longer, and sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with Landon's touch and the bank's cold font. Days blurred into a tense standoff, nods across the fence, texts left unread, the air between their homes thick with unsaid. Asher poured into work, picking up shifts at the hardware store weekends, hands raw from shelving lumber. Mind 'em. Ellie cornered him one lunch, her diner apron stained with gravy, eyes sharp. "Spill," she demanded, shoving a turkey club at him. "You're moping like a wet dog." And Tomas says the crew's betting on you too. Asher picked at the bread. Confession bubbling. He's offering help with the house. Money stuff. Feels wrong. Like I'm buying his affection. Ellie rolled her eyes. Practical as ever. Or like he's building a life. Pride's a bitch. Ash. But love's worth swallowing it sometimes. Her words haunted him through the afternoon stock. Boxes thudding heavy. And by closing, resolve cracked. He texted Landon. Coffee? Nutriground. 7 a.m. diner. Reply instant. There. Dawn was mercifully clear. Mist rising off the fields as Asher slid into the diner's vinyl booth. Coffee steaming black. Landon arrived minutes later. Shadowed under eyes. Blazer rumpled like he'd slept in it. They ordered black for both. No frills, and silence stretched. Brittle. I'm sorry, Asher started. Stirring sugar he didn't take. Pushed too hard. The offer. It scares me. Not you, us. What if it breaks? Landon's hand covered his. Thumb stroking knuckles. Then we fix it. Together. No nights. No debts, just me and you. Figuring the mess. Relief flooded. Tentative. And Asher squeezed back. Okay. But slow. And I pay you back. Every cent. Deal. Landon's smile broke. Sun after storm. And they lingered over refills. Plans sketched on napkins, calls to lawyers. Budget tweaks. A fragile bridge. The week rebuilt in fits. Mornings tangled in sheets. Whichever house empty. Evenings walking the back roads. Hands linked in dusk. Sharing stories of city highs and town lows. Landon's contacts move mountains. A loan secured with terms Asher could swallow. The auction stalled like a bad check. Intimacy deepened. Touches turning tender. Whispers mapping vulnerabilities. Landon's coming out fracture with his father. Asher's nights alone after the funeral. But cracks lingered. One night, post-dinner at Landon's, pasta from a kit. Wine from the cellar, they lounged on the couch. Fire low, when his phone rang. Caller ID, Victoria Whitaker. Sister. Voice clipped through speaker. Landon. The board's pushing expansion. Need you in Manhattan by month's end. Estate's dragging. Sell the Vermont pile and cut losses. Landon froze. Arm around Asher going rigid. Vic. I'm handling it. Give me time. Time's money. Brother. And Dad's ghost ain't paying dividends. Click. The room chilled. Fire popping mocking. Asher pulled away. Heart sinking. Month's end. That's it. Landon rubbed his temples. Defeated. It's negotiable. Probably. But the seed of doubt replanted. And that night, in bed, Asher stared at the ceiling. Landon's snores soft beside him, wondering if bridges burned as easy as they built. October swept in with a vengeance. Leaves torching the hillsides in crimson and gold. The air crisp enough to snap. Asher's world narrowed to a rhythm. Garage days bleeding into nights at Landon's. Their lives intertwining like vines on the fence they'd once let divide them. The loan paper signed. Money wired quiet. Eased the noose around his neck. But guilt nipped at his heels. A shadow he couldn't outrun. He started side gigs. Detailing cars after hours. Cash tipping heavy to chip at the debt. Proving to himself he wasn't a charity case. Landon dove into the estate. Boxes unearthed from the attic yielding treasures. Dad's warm medals. Yellowed letters from a lost love. clues to the debts that chained them. Evenings, they'd sift through it over takeout from the Chinese place in town. Fortunes read aloud with ironic laughs. A journey begins with one step. Asher would snort, says the guy who flew private, but the jab softened, affection layering thick. Intimacy bloomed in stolen moments. A quick grope in the truck after a hike up Camel's Hump. Sweat slick and breathless. Slow dances in the Harrington kitchen to crackly vinyl. Landon's chin on his shoulder. Humming off-key. Sex turned sacred. Bodies learning languages of gasps and grips. Asher tracing the map of Landon's ribs. Landon kissing scars from childhood falls. "You're beautiful," Landon murmured once. Post-climax glow. Fingers in Asher's hair. Inside out, Asher believed him. In those haze-lit hours. But daylight brought interlopers. Victoria descended one weekend. Helicopter whirring like an angry wasp. Her heels clicking judgment on the oak floors. Tall and tailored. Blonde bob severe. She sized Asher up over coffee. Eyes cool as the Adirondacks. "So, you're the local flavor keeping my brother from reality." Asher stiffened. Mug halfway to lips. "Just helping with the sort out." She smirked. Stirring cream with precision. Charming. But Landon's got obligations. Board seats. Mergers. This interlude's cute. But Manhattan calls. Landon bristled from the doorway. Arms crossed. "Vic, lay off." Asher's not an interlude. Her laugh tinkled false. "Darling, everything here's temporary. Even you know that." She swept out to meetings, leaving Frost in her wake. And Asher retreated to the garage. Wrench turning vicious on bolts. Anger coiling tight. That night, over burgers at the Anchor, crew oblivious. Tomas shooting supportive glances, Landon vented. Voice low. "She's wrong. This is real. Us." Asher clink bottles. Forcing levity. Blood's thicker. "She'll win you back to the suits." Landon's grip on his thigh under the table was fierce. "Not happening. I'm selling the estate shares. Investing here. Maybe buy the garage with Mick. Turn it legit." The word stunned. A lifeline tossed reckless. "You do that? For Elmwood? For me? For us?" Kiss stolen in the parking lot. Urgent against the truck. But Asher tasted the lie of distance. The city's pull inexorable. Deeper fractures emerged mid-month, when betrayal slithered in unannounced. Jake, ever the wingman, invited the crew for poker at his place, ramshackle cabin off the interstate. Fire pit roaring, coolers sweating. Asher arrived late, arms full of chips and dip, to find Landon already deep in. Cards fanned, laughter booming. But the vibe soured quick, Jake's eyes too sharp. Tomas withdrawn, Ellie nursing a beer with forced cheer. Game progressed, bets rising on bluffs and bravado, until Jake dealt the river, smirking at Asher. "Your boy's got tells." Ash. Like that eyebrow twitch when he bluffs, same as high school. Landon folded, chuckling uneasy, but Asher caught the undercurrent. The room's tension coiling. Later, as flames died to embers, Jake pulled him aside by the woodpile. Breath beery. "Heard for Vic, yeah? She called me." Said Landon's playing house to dodge the city. But come November, poof, gone. "Figured you deserved the heads up." Asher's world cracked. Fist clenching axe handle. "She called you? What?" Jake shrugged. "Guilty. Old family ties. Dad worked Harrington stables. thought I was helping. Betrayal burned hotter than the pit. And Asher stormed back, yanking Landon from a story mid-tale. Outside. Now, the yard was moonlit, frost rhyming grass, their breaths clouds in confrontation. Vic talked to Jake. Said you're bailing in a month. That true? Landon paled. Hands up. She's bluffing pressure tactics. I told her no, but she knows. Everyone knows but me. Asher's voice rose. Raw. I'm the fool next door. Huh. Distraction till the real life's resume. Landon stepped close. Desperate. Ash. Stop. This is paranoia. Paranoia. Laughter bitter. Tearing free. It's pattern. Rich boy slums it. Then ghosts. I should have known. He spun. Boots crunching gravel. But Landon grabbed his arm, spinning him back. Don't walk. Fight with me. Not against. The plea broke something, and Asher shoved him, chest heaving. Fight? For what? Your escape hatch. Fist flew then, not hard, but enough. Grappling in the dirt like boys. Grunts and curses mingling with sobs. They collapsed panting. Backs to the truck. Stars indifferent overhead. I love you, Landon gasped. Head on Asher's shoulder. Scared shitless. But true, Asher's throat closed. Tears hot. Love's not enough when worlds collide. They drove separate. Silence a chasm. And Asher crashed home, punching walls till knuckles split. Blood streaking plaster. Dawn found him hollow, bandaging wounds. The crisis cresting, love's fragility exposed. Poverty's sting laced with pride's poison. Work was hell. Mick sending him home early. Fix your head or don't come back. Asher holed up, ignoring calls. The house a tomb of what-ifs. Ellie pounded the door day 3, forcing entry with pie and tough love. Heart's bruise. Ash. But quitting? That's the real poverty. Her words pierced. And by nightfall, he texted Landon, talk, reply, porch. Now, they met under harvest moon. Fence between. Voices low. Apologies tumbled. Truths bared. Vic's manipulations. Jake's misguided loyalty. Asher's terror of loss. I can't lose you, Asher admitted. Hand through links. But can't beg either. Landon pressed close. Foreheads touching cold metal. No begging. Partnership. I stay, we build. Kisses through fence. Awkward and aching. Sealed the pact. But shadows lingered. Crisis not quelled. Only banked. November's chill bit deeper. Wind stripping trees bare. Mirroring the raw edges of Asher and Landon's mend. They navigated cautious. Dates at the diner turning intimate. Booze claimed for hours. Fingers laced over pie. Plans whispered like contraband. Landon pushed the estate sale, auctioning antiques to fund his pivot, a partnership buy-in at the garage. Paperwork stacking on the kitchen table. His city life dismantled box by box. Asher softened into it. Shifts shared now, Landon in borrowed overalls. Smudged with grease. Laughing at his own fumbles. The sight absurdly endearing. Intimacy reignited fierce. Make-up sex in the Harrington barn. Hayloft creaking under them. Breaths fogging the chill. You're mine, Landon growled, marking collarbone with teeth. And Asher arched, believing, surrendering to the rhythm of skin and size. But conflict brewed insidious. Victoria returned, not with rotors, but a sleek sedan. cornering Landon at the estate while Asher worked late. He came home to find them in the study. Voices raised, Vic's shrill. Landon strained. Asher hovered in the hall, eavesdropping shame-burning cheeks. "You're throwing away legacy for a grease monkey?" Vic sneered, papers rustling. Dad would roll over. "And that loan? It's leverage. Call it due. Watch him crumble." Landon's retort thundered. "Get out." "This is my life." She laughed. Venomous. "Your life? It's a phase." November's deadline. Board vote. Choose family fortune or farm boy fantasy. Door slammed. Tire screeching. And Landon emerged. Face ashen. Spotting Asher. "How much did you hear?" "All of it." Asher's gut twisted. Old wounds reopening. "Leverage? She can tank me." Landon pulled him close. Desperate. "She won't." "I won't let her." But sleep evaded that night. Asher bolt upright at 3, slipping out to pace the porch. Moonlight silvered the yard. Frost etching patterns. And he lit a cigarette. Smoke curling questions. Dawn brought confrontation over coffee. Mugs steaming tension. "Tell me everything," Asher demanded. Voice steel. "No filters." Landon spilled Vic's machinations. The board's ultimatum tying estate funds to his return. The loan entangled in family trusts. "I can fight it, but it'll drag. Lawyers. Audits." Months of hell. Asher's world narrowed to the steam rising. Heart fracturing. Hell for you. Ruin for me. One call. And I'm homeless again. Landon reached. But Asher recoiled. "Don't." "This was always tilted. Your empire." "My scraps." The argument escalated. Words weapons. Asher accusing escape. Landon pleading commitment. Plates shattered in the sink. A vase toppled in the hall. Their love a battlefield. Asher stormed out. Truck roaring to Jake's, who opened the door bleary-eyed, stepping aside without question. Couch that night was lumpy salvation. Asher staring at log walls. Betrayal's aftertaste sour. Jake brewed coffee at first light, handing a mug with gruff. "Sorry for the Vic thing." "Meant well." Asher nodded. "Hollow." "Everyone does. Till they don't." Days stretched punitive. Asher crashing at Ellie's above the diner. Shifts mechanical. Smiles plastic. Landon texted please. Flowers wilted on the doorstep. But Asher ghosted, building walls higher. Crisis peaked midweek. Mick calling him into the office. Face grave. Whitaker boys offer partnership. It's solid. But words out. Vic's people sniffing, saying it's hush money for indiscretions. Asher's blood-iced. Indiscretions? Our love's a scandal now. Mick shrugged. Uncomfortable. Small town. Tongues wag. You want out? No. Asher straightened. Fire kindling. Screw him. We take it. Resolution sparked. And he drove to the Harrington, finding Landon mid-pack. Boxes labeled donate, eyes red-rimmed. Ash. Stop. Asher crossed the threshold. Door shutting decisive. We're ending this farce. You go to the city. Fight your wars. I'll hold the line here. Landon dropped tape. Advancing slow. No. I choose you. Choices cost. Tears pricked. But Asher held. Vic's right. Worlds don't bend easy. They collided then. Not in anger, but anguish. Embrace crushing. Sobs muffled in shoulders. Landon pulled back, eyes wild. Then we burn it down? I resign. Cut ties. Start fresh here. With you. The offer dangled. Radical. And Asher wavered. Visions of joint ventures. Shared dawns tempting. But doubt whispered, and he stepped back. Think on it. Really think. Nights blurred solitary. Asher at the anchor. Drowning in whiskey. Crew orbiting wary. Tomas slid beside him one eve. Quiet solidarity. Love's war. Man. Worth the casualties. Asher drained glass. Bitter. If it doesn't kill you. Turning point came storm-lashed. Thunder rattling windows as Asher holed in his house. Eviction paused. But Spectre loomed. Knocks pounded. Landon drenched on the stoop. Coat abandoned. Shirt plastered transparent. I quit, he gasped, shoving resignation email printout forward. Bore be damned. Vic disowned me, fine. You my family. Asher yanked him in. Towels and tea hasty. Body heat chasing cold. They curled on the couch. Fire crackling. Landon's head in lap. Fingers combing wet hair. Bankrupted myself for this, Landon murmured. Worth every penny. Asher's heart swelled. Barriers crumbling. Fool. You're fool. Kiss soft. Ceiling fractures. And in the quiet after, they plotted garage expansion. Elmwood roots deepening. But healing's path wound treacherous. Vic's retaliation struck swift. Loan called. Assets frozen. Whispers turning to shouts in town. Scandal sheets emailed anonymous. Outing their affair with venom. Jake fielded calls. Ellie manned the diner's fort. But Asher felt the siege. Isolation creeping. Crisis crested at the town hall meeting. Estate auction public. Vic presiding smug from the front row. Bids flew. Harrington heirlooms parceled. But Landon stood firm beside Asher. Hand hidden but clasped. When the gavel fell on the house itself, to a Burlington developer, Vic's triumph soured as Landon announced. Voice steady. I'm out. Whitaker name stays in the city. Murmurs rippled. Eyes on them. And Asher squeezed. Solidarity steel. Outside. Rain sheeting. Vic cornered them by the steps. Face twisted. You'll regret this. Both of you. Landon met her gaze. Unyielding. Only regrets losing time with him. She spun away. Defeated. And in the downpour, Asher pulled Landon close. Kiss fierce under street lamps. We did it. Not yet, Landon breathed. But we're starting. Healing began tentative. Nights mending wounds with whispers. Days forging futures. Asher's house saved by community fund. Sparked by Ellie's petition. Landon's skills turning garage digital. Apps for bookings boosting revenue. Love deepened. Resilient. Poverty's chains loosening in wealth of shared scars. Winter clamped down hard. Snow blanketing Elmwood in hush. Muffling the world's clamor. Asher and Landon's life wove tighter. Threads of compromise and care. Morning shared in Asher's kitchen now. Since the Harrington sold, proceeds seeding their joint venture, Whitaker Hale Auto. A sign swinging proud over the expanded bay. Mick retired grinning, handing reins with a slap on the back. Don't fuck it up. Boys. Challenges lingered. Ghosts in the margins. Vic's silence was a blade unsheathed. Legal volleys flying. Trust disputes. Defamation suits veiled as audits. Lawyers drained savings. Nights tense over spreadsheets. But they faced it shoulder to shoulder. Landon's city smarts meshing with Asher's grit. "We're unbreakable," he'd say, kissing knuckles bruised by wrenches. And Asher clung to it, faith rebuilding brick by kiss. Intimacy evolved. Beyond fire, lazy Sundays snowed in, bodies entwined under quilts. Stories swapped in the glow of a space heater. Landon traced Asher's laugh lines, murmuring, "These are my favorites," and Asher learned the vulnerability in Landon's quiet hums. Old jazz tunes from his dad's collection, eyes distant with buried grief. They healed each other piecemeal, therapy sessions in Burlington. Awkward at first. Voices cracking truths. Asher's abandonment fears rooted in his father's flight. Landon's shame from closet days. Dad's homophobic rants echoing. Town thawed gradual. Tongues tiring of scandal. Ellie hosted a coming-out potluck at the diner. Rainbow streamers clashing with checkered floors. Crew toasting with craft IPAs. Jake redeemed clumsy. Toasting. To loves that stick harder than mud, and Tomas shared a rare hug. "Proud of you." Even Rita slipped free drinks. Winking. "About time we had some color around here." Spring unfurled tentative. Crocuses pushing through melt, mirroring their renewal. The garage thrived. Electric conversions for eco-tourists. A detailing lounge Landon designed sleek. Asher mentored the new kid. Echoes of his start. While Landon networked locals, bridging Elmwood to Burlington Bucks. Evenings wandered blooming trails. Hands swinging. Dreams voiced. A cabin upstate. Adoptions maybe. Kids with their eyes and stubborn hearts. But climax shadowed in May. Vic's final gambit, a summons to Manhattan. Estate contested, demanding Landon's testimony against Asher's influence. The city loomed, steel canyons mocking their haven. And Landon pace nights. Suitcases half-packed. "If I don't go," she wins everything. Dad shares. Our buffer. Asher's chest caved. Old terror surging. "Then go." "End it." Landon halted, eyes fierce. "Not without you." The trial was a gauntlet, courtroom sterile. Vic's lawyers sharks in pinstripes, painting Asher as gold digger. Their love-a-con. Whispers hissed in halls. Reporters sniffing for clicks. And Asher sat rigid in ill-fit blazer. Hand in Landon's. Nails digging crescents. Testimony tore open. Landon detailing fractures. Vic's manipulations. His choice raw. "I chose hard over hoard." Regret nothing. Vic crumbled cross-exam. Tears crocodile. But judge saw through. Ruling decisive. Assets split fair. No clause on the loan. Whitaker name severed clean. Outside. Rain slicking sidewalks. They embraced on the steps. Sobs mingling with relief. City fading irrelevant. Back in Elmwood. Summer bloomed triumphant. Picnics at Miller's Pond. Bonfires echoing youth, but laced with now. Love matured. Romantic in mundanity. Grocery runs debating organics. Movie nights on the couch. Feet tangled. Asher proposed casual one dusk. Ring simple silver from the jeweler downtown. On one knee in the garden. Wildflowers nodding. "Marry me?" Not for show, for us. Landon's yes was a tackle hug. Laughter bubbling. And wedding plans wove community. Ellie officiating. Jake best man. Tomas ring bearer with a shy grin. Ceremony under the old oak by the pond. Vows exchanged, sunset gilded. Through wealth's glare and poverty's pinch. I choose you. Honeymoon was a road trip. Route 66 echoes in a rented RV. Deserts to oceans. hands on the wheel alternating, stars their ceiling. They returned sun-kissed, life fuller, adoption papers filed for a foster boy from the next county. Wide-eyed and wary, fitting their patchwork family. Years folded gentle, garage franchise small, cabin built with sweat equity. Boy, named Riley, thriving, calling them dad with ease. Conflicts arose domestic, spats over chores. Riley's teen rebellions. But resolutions deepened bonds. Therapy a touchstone. One autumn eve, porch swing creaking. Riley off at college. Asher leaned into Landon, gray threading both hairs. Lines etched shared. "We made it," he murmured, hand over heart. Landon kissed temple, voice gravel warm. Over time, every day, their love, forged in fire of class and crisis, stood testament. Wealth and poverty, mere backdrops to the human core, vulnerability embraced. Scars worn proud. In Elmwood's embrace, two men proved one love could conquer, not despite divides, but through them, blooming eternal.